Chapter 9, so at this point, we've learned about the bone tissue. We learned about the skeletal system. We've determined that in the skeletal system, that means we've got the bone, we've got the cartilage, we've got tendons, we've got ligaments. All of this together is, of course, making up stuff for the body that is going to allow us to have movement. Now, we haven't looked at like the attachment of the muscles and stuff like that, but when we talk about movement, we can't, or the skeletal system, this connection with tendons, ligaments, cartilage, that sort of thing, we can't help but think about movements that we have in the body, joints, okay? Trust me, you get to be my age, think a whole lot more about them. Now should be the time that you're thinking about them though, okay, taking care of them. But the joints of our body that we have, they really do allow for us to have very intricate movement. I mean, if you think about the movements that you have in your body, okay, the ability to walk, the ability to pick something up, the ability, to turn your head, all these different movements, they're very beneficial, okay, to life. When we talk about the joints of the body, we're going to have certain ways that we're going to classify them. We're going to put them into categories, just like we do everything else. And we're going to look at how movable joints are, all right? Because there are joints in the body that you probably really haven't thought of that are there. They're referred to as a joint, but because they don't move like we think a joint should, you probably have never really thought about them being a joint. So we're going to have this stability, okay? The stability is actually going to be proportional to the movement of that joint. For example, in the brain, in the skull, okay, the sutures that I mentioned, those little interlocking parts that kind of, form together, okay, the sutures that you guys need to know, those are actually joints. Have you ever thought about the skull having joints? Okay, so it's not something that you normally think about, but they are, and the cool thing about it is that's not a joint that's very movable. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like the fact that it's not, okay, that it's not that movable. Now, when we talk about joints and the classification, we're going to say it's either structural or functional. Well, the term structural means the structure. For us, that means what material is going to be present. So we're going to think about these connective tissues and which ones are present that are binding these bones, making up these joints. So if we classify it under a structural joint, we'll say it's fibrous, cartilaginous, or synovial. If we base it on the function, what is our degrees of freedom? Degrees of motion. How movable is that joint? Okay? So, arthroses. That's a joint that's non-movable. Amphiarthroses, and I'm using the plural because we have more than one, okay? Somewhat movable. The diarthroses are going to be freely movable, all right? So, as we begin to look at the different joints, if we're saying a fibrous joint, what does the term fibrous make you think about? Fibers. What are the 3 fibers of the body? Collagen, elastic, reticular. All right, so we have these 3 fibers in the body. That's it, okay? We have our collagen, elastic, reticular. So therefore, in these joints, they're going to have the fibrous connective tissue. They have no joint cavity. What does that mean? Can you think of an area in your body that has a joint cavity? A knee. Okay? A knee is the best example of a joint cavity. Their movement, little to none. So, synarthroses, amphiarthroses, or diarthroses. Okay, so little to no movement. We're going to see most of them can be syn, but we might have some that might be amphi, but they're definitely not di. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, the types that we're going to find. We classify our sutures in this group. Syndesmosis or syndesmoses, and then one that I just love, the gomphoses. That is like the coolest joint ever. Oh, and speaking of that, well, we'll get to that. Okay, so when we look at this fibrous joint, and there's also a list here for the cartilaginous, but the fibrous joints, look at what we find for our sutures in the skull, all right? Coronal, lambdoid, sagittal, squamous. Those are the sutures of the skull. And hopefully, no movement, all right? Radio-ulnar, right there between the ulna and the radius. Stylohyoid, our styloid process, and that hyoid bone, the vampire teeth. Stylomandibular, the styloid process, the mandible. Tibiofibula, between the tibia and the fibula. And then, for the gomphoses, teeth, okay? Which I just think it's really a cool joint, trust me on that, okay? Now, cartilaginous, we're going to move into, because that's going to get us into the synchondroses and the symphyses, okay? But we'll take that as we get to it. So under these fibrous joints, the sutures, interdigitate. Do you guys remember that? Because I kind of showed that when, you know, like when baby is born and that skull, you know, we've got, of course, the big one that we think of as the soft spot, okay? But the other bones have not yet closed together, okay? Because they're going to expand to allow for growth of the brain, all right? So we've still got areas that haven't ossified yet, okay? And when they do, they interdigitate. Okay, so these are forming those sutures. Do you remember this term right here, the periosteum? What is the periosteum? The wrapping around the bone that contains cells that we need. Do you guys remember that? Okay. Wait a minute. In the skull? Why? If it's a hard bone, don't see that it can move, blah, 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 Why have I got to worry about these bones being continuous and having a periosteum? Can anything happen? Like what? We could fracture the skull. Okay? We need healing to take place. Okay? So, we've got the really cool setup for that. Now, we do have a sutural ligament. Alright? Ligament, where there's periosteum, okay, and some dense fibrous connective tissue forms between those sutures, those wavy lines. Now, in adults, this should ossify, okay? It should become a complete hardened skull like we think about having, okay? And, you know, people tell me I got a really hard head, all right? Fontanelles, the little membrane area, which we've talked about, okay? And because, you know, one of the things that shows, do you guys remember the intramembranous ossification? Okay? Fontanelles have that, if you guys remember that, okay, for formation. So, fibrous joints, pretty much think about the skull, all right? It, of course, is a nice setup because itty-bitty baby has to make it out of the birth canal. And having these not be hardened together makes for a better passage through the birth canal. Now the syndesmoses, do you notice anything there? Between the radius and the ulna. Huh? Interosseous membrane. Think about this. My arm. Is anybody going to correct me? My forearm. Okay? My forearm. Our forearms. We have the ability to pronate and supinate. Have you ever thought about that with our forearms? The structure of the bones, the way that we have articulation to the humerus, okay, and an interosseous membrane that's present is allowing for us to have this ability. So one of the cool things that you're going to find in only a couple of areas of the body is this interosseous membrane. Very tough, very fibrous, okay, and basically looks like this huge sheet of ligaments holding the bones together, you know, and this interosseous membrane between the radius and the ulna, we're getting a very special movement that we can make that we can't have anywhere else throughout the body. If you think about it, we don't find it anywhere else. So the syndesmosis, we're allowing a little bit of movement to take place, but there is a control, okay? And bones are a little bit further apart, therefore needing the membrane that's present. Ha ha! One of my favorites.